Hello. Hello. Got some evil music on today because we're doing an evil game jam game of evil. We just get the chat open so I can see it because at the moment. Got some evil music. Hello? Yeah, sorry, I didn't have my mic on properly. Thank you for giving me a warning there. So this is a really impromptu stream where I am literally just working on some art for a game jam. This isn't stuff I've done. These are character portraits I've been doing. Been working with Smugpire from our Discord. We're making a sort of OS simulator where you are the HR department for an evil organization and you're hiring and firing people. So that's what these portraits are for. And I feel like I've locked the style of these portraits in. So even though I've got some characters missing, I've got some more to do here, and I've got some detail to add, I'm quite happy with the direction this is going. So today I'm going to start on a different area of the game just to help me answer some visual design questions about it. Hi Simon, hi Nick, hi Mike, hi Miguel. Yeah, everyone keeps telling me to update my GIMP. I know there's a new one, but I'm terrified that it's going to move stuff around and change some keyboard shortcuts. Not that I can remember any keyboard shortcuts. But yeah, these are the portraits so far. This is what Smugpirate's been doing with the interface. So it's been making a sort of Windows 95 style OS simulator for our HR part of our game. So what I want to do is start thinking about world map stuff that can go in here. And I haven't really thought about this game for a few days, so I don't know if we want a full screen world map or if we want one that would fit into a window like this. Oh, turn that down a little bit. This is just a random selection of music that I know is not copyrighted because I haven't released it. But I think if I make the map full screen, I think that's roughly the same aspect ratio as this. But maybe we want the world map to fit in here. I don't know. I'm just trying to make sure that the illustration of the world map matches this. And then when we get our evil missions to send our henchmen on, they'll be maybe within this interface still. So I might make it full screen size and then whittle it down. But yeah, I'm going to get a map of the world, go over it in this style, this kind of paper cutout style, and then see where we get to from there. So. This will just be where your sort of evil missions show up, I guess. Sorry if you were expecting lo-fi hip-hop today, but there's just a random mix of my own music, which is like, some of it is like spooky classical music and some of it is this. But it certainly made me work a bit faster, so I'm going to do that and then chop the edges off, I think. And yeah, people who are dropping in who have no idea what this channel is, please don't mistake this for some sort of art workshop where I know what I'm doing, because that is definitely not what's happening here. This is just... Thank you, I'm glad you appreciated the music video. Land masses. And I think what I want to do... I don't want to use these three colours too much on the world map, because I want to make sure that when these three colours are used as icons here, they show up really well. So we've got this sort of grey and purple style for the OS that Smugpie has been developing already in our team. So I'm probably going to try and incorporate these colours into the map a bit. Maybe there's a sort of blue sea and then sort of, I don't know, grey or purple land. But it needs to look like an interface that an evil HR department would use. No need to create a map if we already got one. Oh, right, yeah, I forgot I said that. But yeah, that's totally true. If you set a game in the real world, well, you don't have to set a game in the real world, but just stealing a map from real life can be a good starting point, because then you don't have to design a world before you've got a game. Yeah. Yeah, this happens, doesn't it? Like, I occasionally say something, and it was probably smart at the time, but I don't have it in memory. The piece of spooky music that's currently in the background that's very quiet was for a cyberpunk game I was making with Dylan Rogers, who makes Gloomwood. If you're familiar with that. I feel like I don't really want this map to have the political borders on, so I'm just gonna maybe just do the whole landmass as one colour and the sea as another colour. Maybe we go for a sort of purpley sea and grey landmass, so it looks really sort of dull, and then the colours can pop up on top. Whoever made this original map definitely can't get me for tracing it, because, you know, if you copy something really badly, it doesn't really matter, because your copy is going to be so unlike the original. You know, this obviously isn't real legal advice. I'm just going to cut out as many bits as I can, because I don't think the map is more decorative. Like, if we can put pins on it to show where the missions are, then great, but the kind of physicality of where things are doesn't really matter in this. It's more there as flavor. And I'm going to just link some of these islands together. Does anyone live up here? Does anyone live on these? Shout out in the chat if you live on one of these islands that I'm failing to accurately cut out. And what the internet reception is like up there. I feel like we should have an on-screen clock as well, because whenever I log on to do this, I always tell myself I'm only going to give myself an hour. And get as much done in that time as possible. Like a game jam within a game jam. How far into getting this map ready for the game can I get in just an hour? Welcome to Indie Lasso Tool Clinic, the only channel on YouTube where you can watch me really badly use the Photoshop or GIMP lasso tool for an hour straight. The beautiful ASMR clicking sound that accompanies that. If you're from any of these territories and you feel offended that I'm merging them together, then I do apologize, but I'm in a rush. Some of this as well, we could just explain it by some sort of alternate timeline where some stuff's fallen into the sea. I mean, it would be easier to get a black and white one, but I'm just trying to make it in the same style that I did the portraits in, which is this sort of 1960s paper cutout style. So that's kind of why I'm doing this in such a manual way. Because the way we're working is Smug is doing all of this Windows UI stuff. And then anything that's an illustration, I'm going to do in this style. So we get this kind of 60s kind of Pink Panther spy movie animation type vibe going on, which it doesn't look amazing, but it kind of matches the theme, and it's one of the things I can do. So, you know, not really being an artist. So I deliberately, with this game jam, you know, when we were talking about groups and projects and stuff, I said I don't really mind what the game is, but I want to work on a project where I just get to make some art assets, because I'm never the artist in game projects. The last jam I did, I was, you know, using the engine, so it's just nice to have a break and do something different, even if it's doing it badly. And that's where I live, that bit there, right there. There. That's roughly where I am. Then if you go down here, this is where the Battle of Hastings was fought in 1066. If you go over here, Cornwall, and this is where you can go to Tintagel Castle, which is where where a lot of the Arthurian legend is kind of claimed to have happened. There's a cave on the beach called Merlin's Cave. I don't think they've got any proof that it was really Merlin's Cave. I don't think they did land ownership deeds for caves in the sort of 7th century or whenever it was. This is why British people don't have Renaissance fairs like they do in the States. Because we have actual medieval stuff. And we just ignore it. Hey, Lols. I'm making the world. With a random selection of my video game background music that I've made over the last decade, which is completely incoherent because some of it's classical and some of it is like this. Australia. Smug. Falsham. Falsham. Are you just inventing British place names? I mean, Falsham sounds like a real place. Yeah, so I've kind of put it in this window, Smug. I didn't know if we wanted the world map to be full screen or not, but I thought I'd do it this big, and if we need to make it bigger later, I can. But I thought kind of trying to keep it in the size of the UI would make sense. The map doesn't need to be sort of super functional, right? Balsham. You're just making places up. But I figure we could have some like pins that appear on here. So maybe I'll get symbols that match these 3 colors for the types of missions, and then they'll sort of appear on the map like pins or board game pieces. Balsham is in Norfolk. We're very good at place names that sound made up. I live very close to Sandwich and Ham. There's a town called Sandwich, and then there's a little town really close to it called Ham. Sandwich and Ham, yeah. Sandwich. Sorry, Cyprus. You just got Atlantis. I don't know if we've got any Greek or Turkish Cypriots in the chat, but I know historically Cyprus has been, you know, quite a contentious territory for you both, but now it's gone. Under the sea. I will add your country back to the map if you give me $100 in super chats. Backing track's got me doing some Tibetan throat singing on it now as well. Oh, Jim. I'm glad we're on the same page. The doomsday weapon. Yeah, you know. Sometimes you just need a doomsday weapon to bring people together. Ozymandias did nothing wrong. Simon is volunteering for throat singing. Amazing. No, that was a weird music skip. Oh, nearly there. Yeah, we need global against aliens, or, you know, if only there was some sort of, you know, incredulous billionaire introducing dangerous technology all over the world and damaging the ecosystem and disrupting the legitimate political process of a country. If only there was something like that happening that people could unite against. But we just don't have any supervillains in the real world, do we? You know? Like, imagine if you owned a tech company and then you sort of became the head of a fascist ruler's sort of cyber Gestapo. I think that would be a bit far-fetched, actually. Like, Stan Lee wouldn't write that. He'd think, no, that's not believable. Why would the president of the United States elect a sort of bad, like, less successful version of Lex Luthor to run his cyber Gestapo? It's just not believable as a plot. Yeah, they just steal art. Pumpkin spice Palpatine, amazing. That's near enough. That's what the world looks like. Hi Mario, hi Tony, hi Uthon. How come you didn't make a successful game if you know about what a successful game should be? Because I spend my day job making games, but the desire to then make a game when I go home is very minimal. Mario's leaping to my defense immediately. But also, you know, you don't have to. I think it's an interesting conversation. But yeah, I spend my day job making games with or for other people. So when I get time to do stuff on my own, I usually want to do something else. That's kind of good. That makes it not too standout-ish, because the actual world here doesn't matter. Like, we're not interacting with different countries on this. It's just going to be a background to plop down icons onto. I made a whole song about it, yeah. Yeah, I worked on a few games that have been in the sort of App Store top 100. Hang on. When did... I'm trying to work out how high Amateur Surgeon 4 got in the App Store. Not that I can take all the credit for that, because I was the kind of office project manager, but I did a lot of level design and story writing and stuff for that. And I made all the music. Because that's what happens when you work in a really weird studio. It's just like, hey, can someone do sort of passable music? Yeah. Yeah, so the purple is kind of coming from the UI design that Smugpire already did for the background here. It's kind of like, what's the Windows 95 that Lex Luthor would use? Well, it's going to be grey and purple, isn't it? It's going to be like cartoon villain colors. Let's just have a little experiment with the color of the sea, because I feel like this isn't quite right. Maybe if I select this color. I mean, that kind of works actually, but maybe make it a little bit darker. I think that works pretty well. It kind of sits it back so it feels like it's in the frame. It kind of works pretty well. The dark blue lacks villainous flair. To be fair, I think Magni has watched quite a lot of my videos because I've seen Magni comment quite a lot. Why would you work on someone else's games instead of making your own and taking all the profits? Because getting paid between like 50 and 100 grand a year to work on someone else's game is a more fiscally responsible option for a 40-year-old single dad, well, not single dad anymore, but a 40-year-old father of two, than doing a hobby project for ages and hoping it makes that much money in a year, which is incredibly unlikely, you know? But it's also just about knowing what you're good at. Like, I would rather help other people with game design, which is what I do now. Like, you know, when I've got projects that I'm working on as the designer within a team, where I sort of write the documentation and make certain decisions and stuff. And then there's kind of people that hire me just for a little bit of coaching or something like that. And the thing about those projects is that means I get to sort of do a little bit of work helping out on a bunch of different games, which I find a lot more satisfying than work like grinding on the same project for years and years. I find that really, really tiresome. Maybe some sort of papery texture like that on there, because that will match, make it kind of feel a bit more craft papery, like this kind of style. Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna, the way that this will work, and I'm just freewheeling here because Smug has to work within this, but you'll have missions that pop up on the map that are purple espionage missions, orange combat missions, blue science missions. And then I think you would select the mission. I guess maybe we need somewhere here to have our villains that we've hired. So maybe when we're on this screen, we get a list of all our villains over here. Or maybe they're along the bottom and we can kind of click and drag them onto missions or something like that. But that's kind of what I'm trying to work out in this session, is just start to think about the visual style of everything, and also the visual style of stuff and just what information needs to be where. I quite like that. That's making the world map not look too important, because it isn't really. And then I need a sample of these three colors. Actually, I'll just make a little swatch in the corner for that. So we've got the purple espionage missions that you use your stealth villains for. And I think maybe actually when we use that as an icon color, we want to use a lighter lilac, because this purple is going to make it harder to see, or just a little bit of a bolder version of the color like that. And then the blue. Those are our kind of three icon colors that are going to appear on the map. Thanks, Fred. And then there's a couple of different ways we could go with this. We could go with the kind of Google Maps location icon. But I quite like the idea of each icon type having its own icon. So here we've got espionage missions, combat missions, and science missions. It's just whether I can make a icon read properly in this style. So, I mean, it could be something like, you know, you have the Google Maps pin type thing, and then there's a little piece of iconography in that top part. So I'm just going to try and get one of those off the internet to trace. Yeah, I mean, it's so recognized as that if you type in location icon, everything that comes up is one of those. So I think that's a good enough suggestion that that is the universal icon for this. Yeah, if you like silly robots that blow stuff up, you should go and check out Mario's channel, because I've been following the stuff that you've posted on Facebook and stuff, and it looks really fun. Kind of Fallout-y, goofy robot stuff. I'm really looking forward to playing that at some point. Buy glasses. Yeah, I like that idea. So I'm just going to make this, make 3 of these in the generic colors, and then work out if I can make them have a theme for each kind of class of missions. Oh, did I just lose that? Oh, it's because I don't have the selection view on. That's come out a bit poopy. Maybe I'll just snip those edges off. I love that people have sort of seen each other's games but don't necessarily associate the developer's name with it. And then they're like, oh, it's you. That's great. The circle tool? Who is she? Yeah, you're probably right. I think a better way of doing it really is just... One needs to be small enough to be able to show maybe 5 or 6 of them at a time if we need them. What's all that? Look at all that mess. There we go. Yeah, I think this is such an iconic thing that I'll try and keep it a little bit rounder and less cut out than the other stuff, but... Right, blue is science, so maybe an atom, something. And then I guess it is like the TF2 style, sort of. And then what Smug can do is basically pop a load of these down and then just hide them when we don't need them. So you go on here and there's, you know, at least one blue mission, one purple mission, and one orange mission, but maybe sometimes there's more, and we just sort of hide the ones that aren't active at the time. Yeah, I feel like a beaker is going to be a more legible object that's easier to see. And I'll do what I've done with the shadows on the character art, which is just have something very subtle like that. I'm going to duplicate that and get our orange and purple ones ready as well. I'm just eyeballing this. I'm not being very strict about palettes. Because you have, the thing about color is it's often about adjacency, so the same color on a gray background is going to look different from on a white background, so this is proper, this track is proper like spy movie war room. I'm going to put this one on repeat. Yeah, sometimes you have to sort of structure your workload by what is boring and what is not, you know. Hey speaker, this is a game jam entry for the game jam we're kind of running in our community actually, but it's not a particularly competitive one, so I don't think it matters if I enter it. We didn't have a rule that was like Doc may not enter the game jam, so science beaker. What does a science beaker look like? I need to think about what the other objects are. So maybe the orange one is a grenade, if that's combat. Beaker, grenade, and or a little mask or some sunglasses like a burglar mask. So I think the problem is this hole is going to be a problem. So what I might do is put just like a darker version of the blue or orange behind the hole rather than having a hole and then put the icon in the middle. I don't think it's going to be perfect, but it will do what we need to do. So I'm gonna continue tracing because it's getting the job done quicker. Just need to find the most beakery beaker. Ugh. The science is too big. Don't worry, that's not going to stay there. That is just a guide. Criminal mask icon. Oh, that's quite good actually. With the fedora. Your mission is to go to South Africa and say "milady" to someone with your fedora on. And if you're wondering why I'm doing so much tracing, because I'm not really an artist and I don't really know what I'm doing. So I'm just doing what works. Yeah, I'm gonna put these together and then I'll do one quick go at them, and if any of them aren't great, I might redo it later. I just need to keep all of these layers so that this is easy to come back to. Because when I work on my own stuff, I'm very, very bad at just like flattening everything and doing changes which can't be undone. Giant grenade. Woo. There we go. Yeah, I think a knife might be better, you know. Because the grenade doesn't read very well that small. Because the thing about the design of a like pineapple grenade is these bits are the bit that really make it read as a grenade. We're going all the way through April for this jam. We've got until the end of the month. Classic bomb. Yeah, yeah. Cartoon bomb is very fitting the sort of art style that we have as well, isn't it? Let's go with that. Because the character portraits have got this very Pink Panther 60s thing, and I feel like the mask is in that vibe as well. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, when we were talking about icons before, I was thinking of using a knife for the purple one because that's stealth stuff. But the stealth stuff could also be things like, it could also be things like dealing and stuff. So the mask works better for that. Hang on. How do you nest things? Oh, it doesn't matter right now, does it? Right. Milady? going on there? Oh, it's because it's on the layer underneath. Right. And then maybe if I go onto the marker and I just fill that hole in, I think that's probably the quickest fix for that, because it's a bit strange at the moment. Yeah, I feel like that reads pretty clearly what's going on there. So I'm going to take the holes out of the markers. We lose a little bit of the clarity of what that icon is for location, but doesn't matter too much. Right, so that reference can go away now. Yeah, it's a collab jam. You kind of have to be working with other people on the game. That's the only rule. And then the theme is that you are not the main character. Try it in white. I think I will do that in a minute, actually. Or maybe this kind of pale grey so it matches the interface somehow. Because this is part of the same software, I guess, is the illusion we're going for. You know, this is evil Windows 95 that the League of Evil use to conduct their business. So this isn't like a separate website. This is part of that same system. You know, you go on there, you hire and fire your villains. That's good. This is gonna look bad, but I want to get them all done quickly and then just check out what they look like together. A little bit wonky. That's what they look like that. I think it is worth trying them so they look like this grey part of the interface. And maybe even giving them these edges that Smug's put on the interface. Windsor. Yeah, no, the only special rule is that you can't be solo for the jam. And it really came from a place of, you know, everyone trying to make a game on their own, and me thinking, basically, because this is a games education channel, loosely speaking, right? It's not I am making a game, watch me make a game channel, which is what a lot of game dev channels on YouTube are. And one of the results of that is when I decide what I want to do with something like a game jam, I try and base it around what I think people need to learn. And I didn't really just want to do a game jam that was just going to be a game jam that any other channel could run. The problem now is that the bomb is a black object and the mask is a black object, so they don't read very well as a lighter color. But what I think I will do is I'll make them black, and then I will try and put some sort of very basic 3D edge on them. Something like that. Which could go terribly wrong, but we shall see. Maybe it's just a case of... Right, how does the 3D edge work on this? So the 3D edge here, the light is on the light is coming from the top left in the interface. So maybe something like just what I would do with the character portraits, really. Just picking out the edge. because the good thing about doing it this way is a lot of the layer is transparent, so a lot of the there we go. That's loosely the sort of thing. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so while we're here, let's talk a little bit about the design process here, because basically Smug suggested we do our entire GDD just as a spreadsheet. Mario said that, yeah, that's kind of the whole point. I always want everyone else's games to be the star of the show, right? Which is exactly what would happen if you were learning game dev in a university. And I may as well make myself big here, because I feel like this is the sort of thing that I can snip down to make a video out of. But one of the reasons why I don't have a business model for this channel that's based around learning courses is that design is a very difficult discipline to learn without constant feedback, right? Because something like programming, you learn it, and if you've done it wrong, there is a clear wrong answer. The code doesn't run, right? So to some extent, programming is the sort of thing you can learn from a Udemy course or something. But because design is experiential, it's based all around what are called second order problems, which is when you don't really know if something is going to work until you've done it and then seen the consequences of that and seen them for a player, right? Which is why I always scoff a little bit when I see people making beautiful games on YouTube that they never share with anyone to play, right? There are a few people making games at the moment where they post constant devlog logs about what they've done, and they've never given a playable prototype to anyone to playtest as far as we can tell, and they are animating grass blowing in the wind and stuff like that, and it's just like, you are in the wrong stage of the project to do that. So in order to learn game design, or to improve your own game design if you're already doing it, you do need a feedback loop with a real person, whether that's a mentor, tutor, community, or something like that. And that is kind of why this channel is set up the way that it is, because then I can make content from looking at people's games and giving them feedback like you would get in a kind of university classroom or something like that if you were learning game dev in a structured environment. And whereas, yeah, a lot of people, they don't have that feedback loop, and a lot of what's on YouTube is not encouraging people to learn design in the way that I would encourage people to learn it, which is, using other people and bouncing things off of each other. So yeah, the way we've done our documentation, it's all in a spreadsheet, and we started off with this Gantt chart. We're in this week now. I'm supposed to be creating the majority of the portrait assets. I guess I'm still on track to do that, although I stopped to start thinking about the map and the icons, and that's kind of what we've been doing here. And mainly kind of because I sort of feel like in this art here for the characters, I've solved some questions. I know what the style is, and I can continue to do it next week or whatever. But generally speaking, I know what I need to do here. Whereas the map, it was like, this is an unanswered question, so move on to that sooner, get that question answered. But one of the things I liked about Smugpire's approach was we kind of used the power of three. So Smug was saying, okay, if we've got like classes of characters, types of characters, or types of missions, just start off with three. So it's just lots of different variants on rock, paper, scissors or something like that. And from that, I ended up making this, which is... It's not like the whole design, because the whole point of the game is you are running HR for an evil company. So you would start off with like hiring characters by trying to offer them as little money as you can because you're an evil company. And then when you've got the characters, you'd go out to this world map and you'd have different missions on the world map, and you send them on missions, and there's a chance they'll get injured or die or whatever. And you are trying to build towards having a doomsday weapon to win the game. And you're trying to avoid the League of Heroes catching you, right? So you've got two big kind of global variables here, and then also your money. So that's three. Again, that's kind of, power of three. There are three states in the game that you're always dealing with, right? The Doomsday weapon is your win condition. That's one of the big three. The League of Heroes is a kind of hard lose condition, where if this bar goes all the way up to the top, you lose. And then the third big resource that's a big global variable is your money. And because it's like an HR simulator, your money is like, you are spending it every round to pay your villains for the month, right? And depending on how good they are, you're going to pay them more. So that already gives you a sort of management seesaw that you need for any sort of management game. And then what we've got here is, the three different types of villains. I keep meaning to call them heroes because this type of game is usually based around heroes, and you would think that's it's just the standard thing that you call characters in an RPG or a management game, but they are villains. And yeah, this is just the theming for them, really, in terms of like the character design of, the espionage ones. You've got faceless ninjas up to secret agents, and then master assassins and hackers. And this isn't really anything to do with gameplay, it's just what the character portraits should look like. So we've got, the level 1 is always like bad guys that Spider-Man would be beating up in the street. And then level 2 is kind of like bad guys you'd see in an action movie or a spy thriller. And then level 3 is kind of comic book supervillain type stuff. So you've got an espionage, which is purple, which is all spy stuff. The orange is going to be your combat guys, and the highest level is where you get stuff like the laser shark, which you obviously... I mean, this is funny, right? Because having a laser shark in your evil base is just classic James Bond. But having one that you send out on missions just immediately creates this joke in your head of like, how does that even work? I'm clicking on a map. I'm sending the laser shark to go and rob a bank in France or something. Like, how does that work? And then this little kind of cartoon plays out in your head. So I think that's fun. And then the science one is your lab assistants up to like Megamind type stuff. We don't need to go into all of this now, but then we've got a breakdown of the 3 different types of mission, and they just correspond pretty directly to the type of hero. So the most basic version of playing this game is dropping purple heroes on purple missions. But each mission has like a type of reward you're going to get from it. So you can see, if you want to keep your money up, you mainly need the orange and purple villains because they have access to more of the money missions. And without the money, you can't hire more people. Each type of mission has a reduce the hero threat type thing, which is, again, going to bring down that lose condition bar of the League of Heroes catching you. And then there's also these research doomsday devices, which you need more scientists to do, right? There's one espionage mission to steal documents, which gives you doomsday device research, but generally the scientists are used for reaching that win condition. So you can already see how that creates another tension of like, if you hire too many heroes from the same class, you're going to be good at money, but not good at doing the other thing, right? And the idea is the kind of better your heroes are, the more efficient they are at these tasks when you drop them in. And then there's some calculations here to kind of randomize it a little bit and stuff like that. And then just a name for the mission to give it a theme. So getting money through espionage is an embezzlement mission. Getting doomsday research by espionage is stealing documents. Reducing the hero threat through espionage is assassinating some superhero or some James Bond somewhere in the world, that kind of thing. And it's all there really. And then there's some other stuff here of how success and failure on the missions works. And here I've kind of tried to explain it really loosely so Smugger's got it. But a lot of it is like sort of take it or leave it, right? I in a game jam game, for a game that is relatively complex like this, I mean, one of the things that I discussed with you in the chat, Smug, in the Discord, was a lot of this just needs to have the illusion of this, right? If we can get all of these calculations and stuff in the game and get it working, then that's fantastic. And it will be really good basis for like a bigger game. But a lot of this stuff just needs to have the illusion of working. You just sort of make it seem like that's how it works. And then, yeah, here's the flow for kind of selecting a mission. So, the player has done their hiring for the month. They come onto the world map to pick a mission. And then we're going to kind of populate this with missions. And the idea is you would go through this set of stuff where it's, okay, we want there to be a range of the different types of reward, because they are the different things that determine the player's ability to win or lose the game. So generally speaking, we want one mission for each of these things on the map. One mission that's going to give you money, one mission that's going to give you research, one mission that's going to reduce the threat, and maybe two others randomly. And then we pick the category for each of those. So if we're doing a money espionage mission, it's going to call it an embezzlement mission, right? And then it's going to set the star level for how effective that mission would be and how good the villains you're sending need to be. And the risk level as well is kind of set in tandem to that. So the more of these skulls that are on the mission, the more likely your villains are to get injured. And if they get injured lots of times, then they're dead, right? And that's it, really. I mean, that's most of what's on that page. There's some stuff here for like how much different villains might cost. And again, that is mainly just if you balance this really flatly, then it doesn't give people anything to think about. But all of this is kind of take it or leave it detail in terms of, you know, like just like me, Smug is working freelance jobs and doing other stuff as well. So a lot of this is just like this is the pie in the sky version of the game economy design for all of the money and the win and lose condition and everything like that. And if we can get all of this working by the end of the month, then fantastic. But to be honest, if we can just get to a point where it feels like all of this is happening, then it will at least be quite a good proof of concept, right? Because when you're making a jam game or like a very short demo of something, there are features that you don't need to actually work, you know? Like, I don't know, let's say you want something to get more difficult over time. You probably want that to work, but you don't need it to be some really complicated algorithm that's like reading the player's success level and auto-tuning the game based on that or anything like that. Sometimes you just need like you know, it's like you're faking it. Like what was the Mechanical Turk, that like robot that people pretended could play chess, and they sort of just, it was just a person hiding inside the robot, you know? Yeah, we should totally, if you want to make the tier 3 guys really expensive, then that's great. But yeah, I think given the nature of the game and it being a management game, I think the idea of having like a top tier of stuff that's really desirable and tempting for the player. Oh, like I want the laser shark, right? But then the laser shark, once you get them and you're using them for a couple of months, you realize they're just draining all of your resources, and now you have to do more money missions, even though you actually really should be focusing on the win and lose condition, right? That's. I mean, I've said it every time someone sent a management or strategy game to the channel to review. I've said it's all about creating the seesaw. You need the top level progression seesaw of like 2 or 3 things that you just can't keep in balance. And if you can make that work, you've got a decent management game. It's kind of what sets, I guess, like incremental and clicker games apart. Is in those it only goes up, you know. When I used to work in a Roblox studio, the big popular genre over there is the they call them tycoon games, but you know, I'm a boomer, so when you say tycoon, I think Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I think of like a proper management simulator where you can actually lose. But you know, tycoon games on Roblox are they're just incremental games where the number constantly goes up, and you just win faster or slower depending on what you're doing, but there's no way of actually losing them. But yeah, proper management sim needs a seesaw that is really, really hard to keep in balance. I think that's where the feeling of it being a simulation comes from, you know. Black Company coming next week. Nice. Villain. I'm pleased to hear that's coming out. That's great. Yeah, a bit more of the 3D cutout stuff to bring this to life a bit more. I mean, ultimately we're using a sort of 1960s art style to design on a 90s computer operating system, so there isn't really a reference point for how much of this should be flat or three-dimensional or anything like that. So I'm just putting these little highlights in so that what I'm doing feels like it matches with these edges and stuff on here. It's not quite the same, but we do want it to be kind of loosely part of the same interface. Hey, Michelle. Nice to see you. Yeah, when I've been doing these art streams for our Game Jam game, they're not really scheduled or anything. I just do them when I can. Will they move together now? No. Oh, it's because I'm looking at the totally the wrong bit. The bomb looks a bit derpy, but it will do for what we need. Very hard to believe that that was your first game. It's wild. Let's see what it looks like with 2 of each on the map. Yeah, Schedule 1 is great. I think it's just an example of a game where a lot of love and care has gone into it, and the person sort of knows what they're doing in every part of what they're doing, you know? I was really surprised by Schedule 1. I streamed it a little bit last week because people were sort of suggesting we check it out. And I was just really, really surprised. It's kind of looks so South Parky, and I was expecting it to be just totally goofy. And it's like a really chilled out. Yeah, I'm not really going to do much more editing to these icons now, I think, because they do what we need them to do in terms of communication. They sort of feel like they fit with the rest of the UI, so I definitely feel like they could be better. And I quite like your idea, Fred, of making this look hollow. but you've made me tempted now. So let me have a go. I've made this flat now, so what I would have to do is color it in with the blue. But I think it might help differentiate it from the grenade, which is from the bomb, which is more solid. So I think it's maybe worth doing. We don't have anything else that's that thin. It's part of the problem. Maybe just the air section like that. Yeah, I think that's better. I think that reads more as what it is. And then... So I think I'm going to make a... I'm just going to take a screen grab of some of these guys. I think what we could do is just have a think about this interaction design. So these aren't really going on here for looks, they're just to test a theory. So if I shrink these down, maybe we make a sort of scroll bar at the bottom of the characters. Okay. Sorry, my son keeps coming in, so I keep muting and then unmuting. So if we had something like this, and you can drag them on. And I guess maybe when you hover over these, the name comes up. So we would have like... Nothing I'm doing now is for looks. I'm just sort of testing out some ideas. We might have something come up like... What's one of our orange missions? Armed robbery. Because what we can't do with an interface this small is show all of the stuff all of the time. So it needs to sort of go away until you need to look at it. Man, I hate trying to put text on here. It's not even a GIMP thing. I hate doing text in Photoshop as well. It's just painful. And then I think the idea would be, we have like, man, such a bad program for text. We have like a threat level. I mean, I quite like the way that that's been pixelated. Why does it leave that much space if I try and leave a space? It's like, in what world do I want the font that big and then that much space? And then I think the idea is... And then what you can get out of it, which would be something like... you know, some dollars.
$1 million.
Yeah, I use Canva for lots of stuff. I use it for thumbnails. I use it for when I have to make graphics for Patreon and stuff. I use Canva. The only thing I've found with Canva is sometimes when you export, it moves text around very, very slightly. It doesn't go exactly where you want. So yeah, I think the idea of how this interface works is you would have your missions, they would have a name, they have a threat level, and stars. And the idea is the threat level starts at the top, because that's how hard the mission is, and the stars would start as like blacked out. And you would drop your villains on there, and as you drop the villains on there, the stars go up, and the threat level comes down. And then you have like a confirmation button. So there would be like a button in this style that would be, I need to copy it from there, that would be on here. So this would say like, you start you drop your characters onto the mission, the star goes up to show your kind of effectiveness rating. Depending on what characters you're putting on, the skulls go down, which reduces the rate of like injuries and stuff to your guys. Yeah, that would be good as well, Smug. So yeah, we can have like, I mean, we can either use these kind of emoji icons or I can make some up, but we should have like little wound icons and stuff that are on them. But yeah, you basically these start out hollowed out, and if it's a lower level mission that's not worth much, maybe it's only 3 stars, and if it's a higher level mission, it might have 5 stars. And you can still do a 5-star mission without filling up all the stars, but when you click this button and send the guys to do it, they're not going to get like the full amount of money out of that mission because they didn't fill up all the stars, right? And then on another mission, we're going to have, I'll try and replicate the same thing. So let's say this is whatever the mission is called. I'll just call it Doomsday Research because that's loosely what we're... kind of loosely what the blue missions will usually be. And this one might have... Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Why does it keep reverting to size 90 every time I click on anything? And then underneath we would have, you know, I guess maybe if we're representing these as bars, it should maybe be a percentage of the bar, because any other number we can give people is going to be meaningless. So I would cause it like, I would do a percentage. Obviously not in this horrible font that doesn't match anything that we've done, but... Oh yeah, I mean, that font is not at all a selection. This should still look like it's part of this interface, so this will still be in this typography. So I'm just doing stuff as quickly as I can, which is mainly making it not right. So what have we got? What have we got? Font up here. Why is it so hard to change anything? And I hate typography on here. But that's the general way I see it working. Oh yeah, I don't know where the base is. I mean, the default Godot font looks pretty close to Windows 95, so I'm happy with that. It would be funny if there was a big Mac marker that was like, secret base, but I feel like Austin Powers already did that joke. Yeah, I feel like I don't know if Smugs played Evil Genius, but I loved Evil Genius. I played the first one, never got around to playing the second one. But I loved that game. I mean, I loved Dungeon Keeper, and Evil Genius was like a re-theme of Dungeon Keeper, and it was really cool. So we're sort of doing that game mashed up with an OS simulator, really. Nice. That's good to hear, Michelle. That's good. I need to save this because I haven't actually saved this, so one thing I was thinking about this interface actually, Smug, is I think maybe if these stats and your money are always relevant on pretty much every screen you're on, then maybe that could be something you use the Windows taskbar for. You know, like maybe the Doomsday Weapon, League of Heroes, and money are like widgets on the taskbar. They're just always there. Because at the moment, this is taking up kind of prime real estate that you could use for something else, having it in this whole section. The thing with we do need quite large amounts of money in this, and like actual figures rather than abstracting it to coins, because part of the game is like haggling over people's wages. So the idea is when you're hiring someone, you try and lowball them a little bit and you give them less per month than they're asking for, because it's an HR simulator. So we do need quite big numbers in order to be quite granular about it. But I do get that, yeah, having smaller, more iconic amounts of numbers can be quite good for something if you want it to feel a bit more board gamey and less painful to do the calculations. But this is something where we kind of want the money to be a bit blurry, because you almost want the difficulty of the game in something like a management simulator comes from that blurriness and the player sort of having to just kind of gut feel certain things because there's too many factors for them to actually calculate properly. The problem with this bomb icon as well is that, like, this is a solid object and then this is a sparkly thing. So maybe just having a tail on it would be better, but I'm not going to revisit the icons right now because I think they do what we need them to do for a Game Jam game. Performance. There should be. That would be amazing. That could be where it becomes a annoying little, like a visual novel, but in a Zoom call, and you're in a Zoom call with this guy, and we have some procedurally generated text. Like, how would you rate yourself on your personal improvement goals. I don't need personal improvement goals. I've got a brain the size of Wisconsin. Ha 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 ha. And then when you have a personal improvement review with one of these guys, they're just like, it's just like normal business chat. And when it's up this end of the spectrum, it's just like, I mean, the laser shark can't even talk. He just says nash, nash, nash. But yeah, that's a lot of horrible layers. That's because a lot of this stuff I don't need to export, because this is stuff that Smug will be probably putting in the engine because it's text-based stuff. So I'm just putting this here to briefly illustrate how all of this would work. But the actual important stuff in terms of assets is really just the map and these icon placements, right? So this stuff here is not stuff I need to actually export for anyone to use or anything. It's just to quickly show how it all lays out. A very articulate laser shark is funny as well, yeah. Well, could be played by, I don't know, who would it be? Just be like, hello, I've been working as a laser shark in your organization for quite some time, and I think I'm probably due a raise right now. I've been acting well above my level of seniority, and I'm pretty sure you're aware of that. You know, I've had lots of good reviews from the underlings, and I think it, you know, I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say I'm ready for section manager right now. Cumberbatch. Sharkovich laser blasts. Yeah, these guys will get more detail on them. I think once I finish the portraits, which will happen in the next few days, once I've got all the portraits in, I'm going to go in and do one more layer. So where I've done this shadows layer on everyone, I'm going to do a highlights layer. And I think that will make these feel a bit more moody as well, because what I can do is I can up the, you know, I can up the opacity of the shadows layer, and I can also put like a highlight on them that feels like it's in this colored light from the background, and that will add a little bit more mood to these. But I don't want to take away from the flat style too much, because I do like how sort of 60s and spy movie it looks. But yeah, we're going to be seeing the character icons quite small in some places, so they do need to be quite sort of have quite a lot of internal contrast so that we can make them out properly. You know, just in case people think I don't obey my own rules when I moan at people about things not having enough contrast or being legible enough. That's what this entire exercise has been about, you know. Like, I don't think these icons that we've done today are amazing, but they read differently and you can sort of see what they are, and I think that kind of does the job for now. And they do sort of feel at one with this Windows 95 stuff around the outside, so I think if we were going more hardcore on this, I'd try and make these look like the pixel art style that you used to have for like folders and stuff on Windows. But this will do for now. And I think I need to go and do dad stuff now. So thank you for joining. Yeah, like I said at the start, each time I do one of these art streams, my goal is to see how much we can get done in an hour. So we've gone over an hour a little bit, but I think this has been pretty decent. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, see you guys soon. Thank you for dropping in. And good luck with whatever you're working on. Also want to quickly shout out that one of our community members is doing a playtesting stream later on. Virginia. Where's the link? Where's the link, Virginia? And I think that might be some people from our Discord's games, but I'm not entirely sure. Let me have a look. Because what I'm trying to do is get more... Trying to get more sort of streamers and people that sort of play games and comment on them into our Discord as well. Yeah, Virginia Leo in about just under 3 hours is going to be doing a stream of some games, and she's got a cool body of work. She does like game soundtracks and did the Baby in Yellow, which I haven't played yet, but looks great. Sort of baby Lovecraft stuff, which is a very funny combination of themes. So I'm looking forward to popping into that later on. But yeah, I need to